Have you ever thought about the complexity of food and how food is connected to history? Here's a fun fact for you. Did you know that okra originated in Africa and was brought to America during the slave trade? It was then grown and cultivated on southern plantations by these individuals, and it has evolved into a staple in most southern restaurants and cuisine today. There's so many things to do with okra. You can fry it, put it in gumbo, and you would have never understood its origin if you hadn't looked into it. But I can also use this story of the okra to introduce the slave trade and teach a tough subject using the lens of food. Food is a powerful lens to view history. Without understanding where food came from and how it's evolved to now, that is how we can turn around and teach a history lesson. This project is just the beginning of my research to learn more about food and its role in history. Using this lens of food, I'm hoping that I can introduce hard topics to my students so that they can better understand history. Here's another one. Have you ever thought about ice cream and how ice cream has changed over time? Did you know that ice cream has its origins in ancient Persia and has evolved over time to be what we have today? The first mention of ice cream in the United States was in 1744. It was mentioned in a letter from a man to his brother describing this frozen, soft custard-like substance. We even have documentation of our founding fathers and early presidents being in love with this concept of ice cream. George Washington was noted to have 2 ice cream pots when his estate was inventoried after his death. President Thomas Jefferson had a favorite 18-step ice cream recipe. Can you imagine? It ends up being close to our current day baked Alaska. That's how ice cream has evolved. We've also seen improvements in assembly lines and mass production. At one point in time, you couldn't just go to Publix or Kroger and pick up a pint of your favorite ice cream. You had to make it. Food also gives us an insight into the past. I want to use food to help teach these complex and hard topics. Food is not a white, black, or Hispanic topic. Food connects every human. Food helps to narrate the story of history. In an interview I had with Dr. Ashley Rose Young, I saw another individual who is passionate about the subject. She is the food historian for the Smithsonian Institute. Her role is focused on the food exhibit housed within the institute. She shared with me about the evolution of food and how it has shaped communities, the country, and the world. Her dissertation was actually based on the city of New Orleans and Creole cooking. To her, learning about these individuals who don't often get the credit, she wants to shed light on this. Women minorities are marginalized, and she wants to use this history to help bring light to this. And through that, she gets to tell the tough story. But she softens the blow by using food. So why is food so important? Because each and every one of us has to eat. Each and every one of us has consumed food. This is why it is so important for students to connect food with history and see how corn was different for the Pilgrims coming off the Mayflower that was presented to them than our corn is today. There is no food today that was exactly like it was 15, 20, 100, or 200 years ago. Food is ever evolving, just like we are as a society. And I want to teach my students this information. Let's go and think about something different. Have you ever thought about a peach? This fuzzy skinned fruit that this state is named for can be traced to the beginning of our state's history. It was once again brought over during the trade. Who would have ever known? It's synonymous with the state of Georgia, even though Georgia is not the #1 producer. South Carolina and California are the top producers of peaches in the United States. But I can still take the peach and intertwine its history throughout a Georgia history course. And this is so cool to me. Every student knows what a peach is. Every student has consumed a peach. But for them to be able to look and dig deeper into this, that's going to be key. I'm also excited to be able to highlight the advances in technology. How Betty White is actually older than sliced bread. And why this invention of sliced bread was so important to American society. We can even go as far as why were frozen meals so pivotal to our history. Having that advancement in food technology created a whole new world and a whole new culture for us. Could you imagine a late night watching TV without a frozen meal if your mom was too busy? But it also helps shed light on another thing. When we're talking about frozen meals, is the role of women. Women have always been synonymous in the kitchen, but that's changing. It's ever evolving, just like food. So I want to take all of these ideas about food and history and how to incorporate them into my classroom and apply it. I want to teach history to my students through the lens of food because it is very powerful. And there are so many different food cultures that we can look at, but more than anything, food can narrate the story of history.